This comes from Go Nintendo, where they say senior analyst at SMBC Nikko predicts Pokemon, Animal Crossing, Smash Bros. Switch announcements around March, which would be just a couple of months before the actual E3 Nintendo Direct that they always have.
Okay.
Go Nintendo goes on to say, after watching today's Nintendo Direct, many fans are thinking Nintendo is holding on to some bigger guns for Switch until we get closer to E3. IG Maeda, don't know how to pronounce that, senior analyst at SMBC Nikko Securities Inc., is thinking we might get some sizable announcements before that. According to Maeda, he expects Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and Super Smash Bros. Switch announcements around March 2018. Now, March, that would be the 1-year anniversary of the Switch's release. So, if you remember, when Smash Brothers was announced for the Wii U, it seemed like every month they would have another direct for it, like every single day leading up to the release, they would be posting a new screenshot from the game showing off something new. So these are the games, like especially Smash Brothers. Axel, you seem to be really excited for that. Were you a big fan of the previous Smash Brothers games, or does that go back to Melee or Brawl?
I've played them all except for the one that was on the Wii U and 3DS. I've played the original. I was excited about when I first saw it announced. I still love that old commercial, the big stuffed animal guys fighting in the
so happy
field of flowers.
To be together.
Yeah. I played Melee, and I'm one of those few people who loves Brawl, I guess. It's actually my favorite of the series, so... but I haven't played the new one, and I'm excited about it because I'm a big Mega Man fan, for example. I was a Mega Man fan before I was a Zelda fan, in fact, so, you know. Actually, the same is true of Sonic the Hedgehog, by the way. That might explain some of my love for Brawl. So, definitely excited about the idea that I feel like I could feel some skepticism on your face over there,
What about you, man?
I think if it's a port, it's more likely. It was Smash Brothers, Pokemon, and what was the other one again?
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. If they're ports, I believe it. Pokemon might not be a port because I doubt Pokemon's the only big thing that they're developing.
Yeah, they came out at E3. Yeah. E3 last year. They announced that they were working on a 3D or not a 3DS, but a Switch Pokemon game. So that's the only thing that we know is confirmed. Everyone can expect Pokemon and Animal Crossing to come. They recently released they recently released the smartphone Animal Crossing game, Pocket Camp, I believe it was called. So getting that fresh into everybody's minds again, especially since the Wii U Animal Crossing didn't do so well. I forgot what the name of it was. But they made a big deal about the Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and they even, I think they had a direct dedicated to it, and they had some new stuff on the 3DS as well. But with that in people's minds, I don't think Animal Crossing is, like, it's obviously one of their big games, but I don't think it's on the tier of Smash Brothers, Mario, Zelda. So I could completely see it being announced pre-E3 and then saving like Smash Brothers or Metroid Prime 4 Pokemon to actually reveal at E3.
So my thoughts are Nintendo the past couple of years, they've made mistakes with their marketing, but I think they've done a better job overall of marketing their games. Everything from the way they've handled the Switch release, the Zelda release, to the even the DLC of Zelda, how Anuma came out and said it's releasing tonight on the stage. Like, I did not expect that. I thought that they would push it back to December 31st. They were going to wait till the last day of the year, 2017, to push out the Champions Ballad, but they surprised everybody out. So the way they've marketed now, I think, is they've improved. So I don't think it's a smart move to go ahead and reveal your aces, your best players in the middle of March or April. You got to wait till E3. It's the biggest conference of the year of any gaming show. Like, Nintendo knows this. So I agree with you, Jesse, and you too, Axel, that, you know, it might be a port. It might be the port if they do go that way. But if it's a new game, and even if it is a port, I'm really feeling that they lean over towards the E3. Because pulling out those cards, you're not going to have that many viewers, you know, in the middle of March. But everybody watches E3. Everybody watches E3. So if you're going to come out with a big game or an announcement, it's got to be then. That's just my thoughts on it.
Unless they're holding on to some really huge stuff and they're trying to
Like, okay, so yeah, they could do they could do Smash, blow everybody's minds, right? March, boom, here comes Smash, and then E3, Metroid Prime 4, and the new Pokemon. Done. Game over. It's done. They come out with like actual gameplay of those two games. If they come out with actual footage, guys, mark my words, of Metroid Prime and Pokemon, of actual Pokemon, they won E3.
Yeah, they did.
Just those two games alone. Pokemon's fan base. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys been playing the Pokemon games on DS, or all the Pokemon, all of them on the handhelds? I had stopped after Silver when I was a kid, and just like 2 weeks ago, I decided to start playing them again, and they're all magical. Like, I can't believe I ever stopped. So if they come out with it, I think they're going to do very well.
I think I went from the GBA games were the last ones that I played, and then I played through a little bit of Black and White on the DS when, like, right before Black and White 2 came out, and then I played around with it was either Sun and Moon or X and Y. I played for like an hour, and that was it. So I don't have much experience with the new Pokemon games. It was just at the time I didn't have much time to sit there and play on the 3DS. So
yeah,
it looked like Matt froze there. Are you still there, Matt?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not good. All right, well, while he fixes whatever issue he's having, what are your thoughts on the Pokemon game coming to the Nintendo Switch? Is it something that you were really interested in, or is it just another game for you?
I have a funny history of Pokemon. I was big into the Pokemon craze when it first came to America. You know, I got Pokemon Yellow, I watched the anime, I played the card game a lot, but I fell out of it completely. I never got... the only Pokemon game I owned for years was Pokemon Yellow. And I kind of just stayed away from this series because at some point, like, the Pokemon they started coming out with were a lot more cartoony. It just wasn't, my style as much anymore. But, when I joined Zelda Dungeon, everyone was talking about Pokemon all the time. So I kind of got peer pressured into giving it another shot. So I got Pokemon White, and I played through most of it. I kind of got distracted by a lot of other things, so I never quite finished it. But I was enjoying it quite a bit. And I got Pokemon Y, but never got a chance to play it. And so I'm not the biggest fan of Pokemon, but it's an enjoyable series. And it doesn't necessarily matter what I think of it, because it's one of Nintendo's heavy hitters. Probably, if we're being really honest with ourselves, it's probably a bigger series than Zelda is.
Hello.
Hey, you're back.
Okay,
welcome back.
That was weird. I apologize, guys.
No, it's totally fine.
I think all right, what did I miss? Catch me up.
We were just getting Axel's thoughts on the Pokemon game.
What do you think, bud?
More or less just that I have a really sketchy history with Pokemon.
He was peer pressured into Pokemon.
Picking it up.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I was peer pressured into playing Pokemon White after years, and then...
Are you able to turn on your video, Matt?
Yeah, hold on, give me a minute. Because something happened with my computer, I don't know.
Yeah. Alright, so while you're trying to fix that, something that I actually think is going to happen for E3 is another Zelda announcement. Obviously not whatever the team that worked on Breath of the Wild is going to be working on, because that'll probably be another 4 or 5 years. But the handheld team has been working on something. A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes. It's been like 3 years since Triforce Heroes came out, and their handheld team usually takes 2 to 3 years to come out with a new Zelda game, and it's been 3 years since their last. So they have to be working on something that's nearing completion. There's rumors. There's rumors of Link's Awakening being remade for the 3DS, which could end up releasing on the Switch. So Grezzo finished Ever Oasis. That was their new game. Before Ever Oasis, they were the ones who remade Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D. They also helped with some of the dungeons on Triforce Heroes. So there's 2 handheld Zelda teams that could be working on something. And then Tantalus, who worked on Twilight Princess HD, we don't know if they're working on Skyward Sword HD. They could be working on another HD remake or port. We don't really know. So I expect something Zelda related, whether it is the handheld team's game, whatever the follow-up to A Link Between Worlds would be. During the one of the interviews with Game Informer, it was Aonuma Miyamoto being interviewed, and because Aonuma was wearing, I think it was like a paper Zelda shirt similar to Paper Mario. And they asked him if Nintendo was working on Paper Zelda, and he just jokingly said yes. That could have been, like it could have just been a simple throwaway answer, or he could have been completely serious. So we don't know what they're working on.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, exactly. The way he said it so fast too. If you see the video and you watch it, he's like, "Oh, we're working on it."
Yeah,
like he said so confidently and so fast, just like that. And
he just shows his shirt. Are you serious? And he's like, "Yeah,
we're doing it."
Yeah. So like that could have just been them having fun, being like, "We're here to talk about Breath of the Wild, not whatever the 2D Zelda game is." So just move it on. But what are your guys' thoughts? Do you expect anything Zelda related? Like, we just got Hyrule Warriors, a spin-off. We could be getting a handheld game. We could be getting another port remake. We could be getting something entirely different. But starting with you, Axel.
Oh, I think once you pointed out it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years really since Triforce Heroes.
No. Triforce Heroes. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Wow.
All right.
It's been a while then.
All right. I'm going to confirm this. Let me look this up really quick. But continue.
If that's true, I think you're definitely right. There's no way there's not a big Zelda, like a handheld Zelda announcement. I'm happy to hear that. I mean, you guys might know my controversial opinion on on the remakes and stuff in Zelda in general. But
fill us in.
I was against Majora's Mask 3D being remade. One of my most viewed videos was like, "Don't make it, guys! Come on."
But Axel, it needed those fishing ponds.
But anyway, they clearly put it in, or they clearly made it, so, whatever.
Yeah, so...
I'm not big on remakes. I think the Zelda games are pretty complete as they are, but obviously a lot of people like remakes, so that's fine. I am happy to hear that Grezzo did make a different game. As I was saying, I was like, just spend your time making new games.
Yeah, they took the engine that they basically perfected working on with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. They took the engine, made their own game. And for the record... October 22nd, 2015 was the release date. So it's been 3 years now.
Okay.
It'll be exactly 3 years in October. So, E3 would be about 2.5 years since the release, which is about as long as it takes for them to release the Zelda game. So being that long just for an announcement, yeah. But what type of game do you expect it to be? Or what type of game would you want it to be, Axel?
I don't know, man. They would likely do something... we're in a weird point right now because they did, Skyward Sword, which was in some ways trying to be a little new, but really it was just kind of by the numbers, the same direction we've been going through with the last few games.
Yeah.
Of the more linear, more story-oriented Zelda games. And then all of a sudden they do A Link Between Worlds, and it's kind of a spiritual successor, kind of an original game, and it's a very open game, very classic-style game. And then Breath of the Wild comes out, and it's this very unconventional, kind of back to the basics, but kind of new at the same time game. We have no real idea what they're planning right now, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, are we going to do some more of these games, or are we going to just go... I mean, it's Nintendo. I guess their track record is always do something new, so whatever they take out of, Breath of the Wild, Link Between Worlds, it's likely to be new. I guess we can expect most likely something like A Link Between Worlds, I would say, but different. Like just it's new big gimmick. No fusing into walls. No Link to the Past. Something.
Yeah.
And honestly, the remake of Link's Awakening idea makes me wonder if they're gonna do like a Link to the Ganon's Awakening or something. And it's
because A Link Between Worlds actually began because Miyamoto was so impressed with the 3D ability on the 3DS, he wanted to remake A Link to the Past, which at the time he said was one of his favorite Zelda games. But it didn't, to him, I guess it didn't age well, so he wanted to remake the game on the 3DS. Aonuma didn't want to. He wanted to make a new original game for the 3DS, so they compromised, and they already had the game basically halfway remade. So they ended up making what I call a reimagining, where it was just like Miyamoto and Aonuma just arguing like, I want to make this, no, I want to make this, and then they compromised, so you got essentially a remake that's not a remake. It's the same world, different dungeons, and different story. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, I guess.
If I could comment on remakes, for Zelda, I agree, Axel, that they are complete games in themselves, but over time, I do like how they do remake them. I like how they bring forward, they keep the game, but it's just better graphics, you know, better sound, better audio design, things like that, better lighting, just more immersion is the way I look at it, right? To the point where eventually I want it to be where I look at a Zelda game and I'm like, wow, this looks so real. Like, I want to be terrified of what's her name? The spider. Oh, what's that big spider name? Yes, Goma. Like, I want to be actually just so afraid of it because it feels so real. Kind of like that demo in 2011, like they started to take that real approach, and that's where I hope they go with the next game. But anyway, so I do like remakes in that regard, and I think they kind of have to here because we know how long Zelda games take. Like, they take so long. This Breath of the Wild was announced when 2011, like that they were working on it, like right when Skyward Sword was coming out, the end of 2011. Didn't they say they were working on it then?
They officially announced what they called Zelda Wii U during the same Nintendo Direct that they first announced Wind Waker HD.
Right, that was 2013 in March.
Right? I'm glad you know this.
I'm pretty sure that was 2013 in March. I remember that, but I'm saying before that, when they had they called it the Zelda HD Experience, if I remember correctly, it was June 2011. They had the Zelda HD Experience. They showed you Link go into the Temple of Time and fight the spider. If you guys remember that, Goma. Yeah. And they said, we're working on the Zelda Wii U right now. Yeah. Like, we're working on it. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to look like Twilight Princess HD. That's what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't that. So they announced it in 2011 that they were working on it before Skyward Sword even came out, guys. Like, six months before. So if we're talking like that, they've been working on Breath of the Wild 2. They've been working on that already for quite some time. Yeah, right? No, go ahead. No, please.
Realistically...
I'll have to keep it flowing. Go.
Yeah, in game development, it's really just the second the team is done with one game, they don't like take a break.
You go on vacation for 6 months.
No, they keep working. So the next Zelda game is already in development. It's always already in development.
Yeah, like there's been interviews to add on to what Axel said, where Aonuma says, whatever the next Zelda game is, it typically begins pre-production around the time that whatever the previous game was entering the polishing stage, and they use like ideas, concepts that they thought would have been fun or cool to put in whatever the last game was that they weren't able to use because it didn't really mix with the themes of that game. They take that as a base or like a building block and then carry that over to the next project. So with what was it? Majora's Mask, there was a lot of unused stuff from Ocarina of Time that made its way over. Twilight Princess had stuff that was reused from Wind Waker. Skyward Sword had stuff that was carried over from Twilight Princess, which that was actually the main focus of Skyward Sword, because Twilight Princess came out, which was developed for the GameCube, but then they had the new console coming out where they had the motion controls, and then they were like, oh, we should make an entire Zelda game based around motion controls. So then they worked on Skyward Sword, and then whenever Skyward Sword was nearing completion, some of the negative feedback they got was that it was linear, like Axel was saying. There's no Hyrule field. So what do you get in Breath of the Wild? The largest Hyrule field from any Zelda game.
Hyrule field, the game.
So going forward, I feel like the conversation should revolve around, like, how long do we think it's going to take these guys to do this? Because are they going to go the route of Majora's Mask? If they do that, they could get a new Zelda game out here in a couple years, like 2019, 2020. I'm thinking if they keep the same graphics engine, the same physics engine, which they said took them most of the time. They said most of the development time was ironing out the kinks of the physics engine, right? So if all of that is perfect, do you guys even want another game with the same graphical style? I want the same physics engine. I want a new style, though. I want it to look completely different, personally.
I'm a fan of it. I would like to see just what a new style is, because with Zelda games, Nintendo's basically done everything. We have what I call like the manga look from Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, especially the 3D versions. We had the cartoon from Wind Waker. We had the realistic in Twilight Princess. We had the painting in Skyward Sword. We have an anime in Breath of the Wild. What's left? Like, what could they do aside from trying to make something even more realistic? Like, there's not many art styles left for them to do. So
I think, at least commenting on the 3D one, Axel, you said you think it's going to be more of a top-down 3D world, Link Between Worlds type deal?
The handheld game.
Like? The handheld?
The handheld.
Would you want that? I would love for them to go an actual Majora's Mask Ocarina of Time route where it's like a 3D world where the camera's positioned behind Link and you get to actually experience a new world. Like, use the same graphics engine as the Majora's Mask one and just make a new game in that way. Like, totally new Hyrule field, new dungeons, everything. Instead of it just always being top-down. Because they've never made a single game like that, ever. There's never been a Zelda game that's brand new on the handheld like that, where you're experiencing a world this way.
That's what I always hoped Grezzo would do that, because in my mind they were given a little bit of freedom with Ocarina of Time. They made some of the changes, like they made the water temple easier. And then with Majora's Mask, they made a lot of changes, which I don't know. I guess Axel's not a fan of. What was it? They added in the 2 fishing spots. They changed the location of the bank. They changed how some of the boss battles work. They changed a lot of that game, but it still feels.
I think it's still held its core.
So where Nintendo gave them a little bit of freedom and then gave them even more freedom, I expected them to be like, okay, you know how to make a Zelda game with this engine, go and do it.
Yep.
Make
build dungeons. Yeah. A new central. Yeah, like a new clock town or something like that. Just a new central hub and then have a world outside. It could have been. I hope that's what they're doing instead of going like Link Between Worlds with a cartoony just style like that. Like, that's fun, but to me that's. And another thing about Link Between Worlds I didn't like was getting all of the items. Everyone seemed to like it except me. Getting all the items in the very beginning of the game, that took all the fun out of the dungeons for me. When I go into a dungeon or a temple, I want to be like, what is the item in here and how do I get it? Like, and once I get it, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to be killing everything. And Link Between Worlds is like, oh, I got everything I need, so when I go in a dungeon, I just wreck house and don't even... I had no joy doing that, because I always go into temples looking for something, seeking treasure.
Yeah, it's always interesting to find what kind of new item you're going to get. But if you already know what the item for the dungeon is, it takes out some of the
You know where
surprise.
it is, you go pick it up.
So with you, Axel, do you have any final thoughts on this before we move on to the next topic?
I think the idea, that's an interesting theory or suggestion of them doing the it in the Link Ocarina of Time 3D / Majora's Mask 3D style. It's the kind of thing I've been asking for them to do instead of doing that's what, like, I think that was my example of what I wanted them to do instead of make Majora's Mask 3D. Okay, make a Majora's Mask successor. Like, what the hell? I'd love to see Termina again.
Yeah.
I do like the overhead Zelda games. I like there's inherent design ideas that are unique to that and things they can do with that. I don't want to see it go away. I wouldn't mind the next game not being. It's like what I was saying. What are they really intending to do with the next game? Because we're at a weird point where where the last 2 games were total deviations from their predecessors in terms of design sensibilities. Just with regard, the last thing I'll say, just with regards to the idea of getting the items at the beginning, I thought that was a cool idea in some ways. I was actually kind of like, when Link Between Worlds was announced and I was seeing, oh, you can rent all the items from the beginning. Oh, the dungeons have these posts in front of them that tell you what item they need. I was like, that's not how the old games had to do it. Like, A Link to the Past did that a lot more gracefully, But I do like the idea of having powerful tools. One thing that's bugged me about all of the 3D Zelda games is how late you get the bow. Like,
especially Skyward
We can
Sword.
argue that, when you get the items, right? But you should go and have to do a trial to get it at least, right? You should have to beat something to get the awesome item instead. Oh, here it is. Like,
I think I can tell you, I am this is a weird direction to go, but I think this is the best way to explain my opinion on it. I am intending to be, at some point in the future, a game developer. I intend to start doing independent games at first, and then maybe build up from there. I have ideas that only would work in like AAA graphics and stuff, but I obviously can't start there. And that includes Zelda-style games that I had planned. And Breath of the Wild, in fact, took some of my ideas. It went a completely different direction than some of them, though. One of the things I wanted to do was create a game where there is openness and direction with how you approach the game. So, like, one of the games starts, you're in your village, your friend gets kidnapped, you go to rescue her, you have no idea where she was taken. So you have this whole kingdom, there's certain areas you can't do until you have the right items. And there's a lot of items you can get right away, just from a little exploring, or even in some cases, like with the bow, because I'm big on the bow, you can get it right away at the shop. I don't care. I want it right at the beginning.
Got it.
But as you explore, there are some dungeons where you have a big dungeon item. You got to get in the dungeon, and you have to use it to complete the dungeon. But there are some dungeons where you don't get that. You have to prepare. You have to get an item so you can even do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes cool. I have both. Sometimes
you have variety.
Yeah, that's the thing I always wanted. I wrote articles about this. I like the idea of a Zelda game.
Absolutely.
That has different rules for the dungeons. That was one of the really cool things about Twilight Princess is you had to get the big key pieces in the Goron Mines. And there was a moment, this might have just been for me because I might have been dumb, but there was a moment in Snow Peak Ruins where you have to dig up a chest in wolf form to get a key. Yeah. And I had no idea it was there, and I had no idea. I didn't even occur to me to use the wolf.
It took me forever. It took me hours.
What led me to it was getting the compass.
Because
and there's no other dungeon in the whole series where I've ever solved a puzzle because of the compass.
Got it.
I like that idea. Play around with what the dungeons do. Don't completely structuralize the game where it's like, okay, time to go to the dungeon, time to get the dungeon item, time to get the map, time to get the compass. You know, play around with it. It's something to play with. It's something to create experiences with. That's my thought on that.
That's a lot of depth. I agree, and I hope they go in that route where we have a lot of variety to get different items. The different items are used in different levels, and there's different variations of difficulty to achieve those items. Like some you can just get, like you said, like the bow, but other ones, like maybe the super hammer or the hover boots. God, I want them to bring back the hover boots from Ocarina of Time. Like maybe have that locked away in a Shadow Temple or something.
I had this one idea for I'll just make this really brief, but I had this idea of a game where you get a lot of these items throughout the game, and there's basically 2 second to final dungeons. You know, there's a final dungeon that you do after you beat everything else, but there's 2 like really big powerful dungeons that you kind of do at the end, and each one has a dungeon item. And it's like a really big, powerful one. And you use each one. You can do the dungeons in either order, but you play the dungeon fundamentally differently if you get the item from the other one.
Dude, yes, man.
And there's all kinds of optional
get into
secrets.
Game development. Get into it, dude. Do your thing, man. Do your thing. Awesome.
But anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
I agree, 100%, man. All right, Jesse. Sorry, we were lingering on that topic.
No, man. No, it's fine. The videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Link Use the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christy, Give Time 15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.